First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming. We were out here a little bit earlier today, and I know that I was talking with some people. So far, the farthest that a person has traveled, to my knowledge, is from Texas. So I don't know if anybody has passed that. California. LA? Okay.
Hollywood.
Very good.
LA. I don't live in Hollywood.
And I think, you know, just the distance that people travel to be here is not just a testimony to Kenny and Pops, but just really to how important of a town and how meaningful it was for everybody who, you know, has been a part of Paramus at one point. I just really want to just acknowledge that. Before I talk a little bit about what this bench means and about this story I have about Kenny, I really do have to thank a lot of people who made this happen at our level. First of all, if you notice, this is fresh concrete right here. So I want to thank Steve Campbell, who's over there, always behind the scenes. He's the director of Building and Grounds, with his crew, Arbin and Mo are here that really made this happen. We put this out here. So I really want to thank them. And then we do have some district personnel that I just want to acknowledge for showing up. Our superintendent of schools, Mr. Adams, is here. Our assistant superintendent of schools, Mr. Donahue, is here. Brooke Bartley is our business administrator. Carla Alvarez, human resources. I think I see Ms. Green back there, our a Board of Education member. And our two assistant principals that are really the two people who run the high school and make me look good, Ms. Angione and Mr. Montori. Keeping in tradition with, you know, how important Paramus is, not just to all of us, but to the county and the state. There's some other people that have showed up. We have Jim Tedesco, as everyone knows, the county executive. Thank you very much. Our mayor, Rich LaBarbiera, always a patriot, always there to help out the high school. Appreciate that so much. I saw Joe Diarco somewhere. I think he's sitting in the back over there. Joe, thank you very much for coming. And all of you, thank you very much for talking to me about this. I had a lot of conversations with Lou Lanzalato, and the question that I got from a lot of people when I said that to them is they said, it must be his son, because I had his dad when I was here, so it must be Junior. And it is. I don't see him here right now. Look, there he is in the back. There's Lou. So Lou was one of the first people to contact me to inform me of Kenny's untimely passing and to talk about it. And I shared a story with him about my very brief afternoon. I spent one afternoon with Kenny, and it was really enough to forge what I would say. Well, no, I don't mean it like that it was enough. But it was enough for me to forge that really sustainable relationship that all of you have had with him over a lifetime. He did come in and introduce himself as the 1963 First District Wrestling Champion. And he did want me to know that he would probably still be in the same weight class if he was to be wrestling at the time. And that was the introduction. But in my first month here as a principal, going back 9 years ago, some of you may have been tuned into this, some of you may not have been tuned into this, but there was this controversy, if you will, going back and forth between what Spartan logo was acceptable to use. And just to segueing very quickly, when I first met Rich LaBarbiera, I met him at a JV baseball game to say hello before I even started, and we had talked for a while. And as I was leaving, he very quickly said to me, "Bring Sammy back." And I had no idea what he meant at the time. I said, okay. And I didn't really know what he meant. So I got a call from Kenny, and he said he was in California, but he was flying in for something else, but he specifically wanted to meet with me. And he was an alumni, and he needed to speak to me about something that he considered to be very important. So of course, no problem, come on in. He came in, he sat down, and we started talking, and he told me a little bit about what it was like for him to grow up in Paramus. And he was asking me about my background, and there was a little bit of an interview going back and forth. We were feeling each other out. And I wasn't really sure what he wanted to speak to me about. But eventually it kind of turned, and he told me that he felt very deeply that he needed to have a conversation about the mascot and the logo that was going on, about whether or not we could, what was happening with the logo. So, and this is the part that I mean, I will keep it together, but the truth of the matter was, in the moment, it was a very emotional interaction between the both of us, because what he did was he said, I just need to show you something before I get into any of this. And he had a big folder with him, and he took out a bunch of letters that were on Paramus High School letterhead that had Sammy the Spartan. And what they were letters that current students had written to their classmates who had just graduated in Vietnam. And there were letters that were sent back from these young boys who were in Vietnam back to their friends and family in Paramus. And he started to talk to me about what this meant to him, that they were doing in class and they were writing them. And I stopped him and I was like, Ken, I get it. I understand what you're talking about. And very, very quickly and very succinctly, it became very clear to me that this discrepancy about the mascot, whether it was silly or frivolous at all to begin with, the fight for it to remain, for Sammy to remain, really had nothing to do with the cartoon character or the GIF or anything like that. What it was really about was a generation of people who grew up in Paramus, and this town was dear to them. And by the elimination of the mascot that represented their time here was in a way informing a generation that your time here didn't matter, or your time here didn't exist. And I said that to him, and he agreed, and we shared this moment that even though it may never have been appropriate to do that, I understood the fight clearly. It wasn't about who liked which logo better, which one was modern, which one was outdated. He was just like I heard today from, I forgot your name, but you said that Ken was the glue of your class, and he was the glue of Paramus. So what he was standing up for was not the logo, it was the era, it was the time period, it was what it meant to be a part of this alumni generation in the long run. And he was not going to let anything get kicked to the curb, any symbolism of that. So when I told him I got it, and I told him instantly, I can't really tell you that Sammy is going to be reinstated, because in my opinion, Sammy never left. He then instantly was like, great, so how are we going to get rid of the other one? And I had to slow him down pretty quickly, because I had to explain to him that if it was inappropriate for us at any point to try to say that the symbol of this generation didn't exist, that we had to recognize that there was now at least a smaller generation, but there was a group of kids who have gone through the school with the other mascot. So we couldn't really apply that rule backwards and take away the other mascot. So he liked that. He said that was fine. And what we came up with really together is, I just have this picture here, and I'll pass this around, and if anybody wants to take it, they can take it with them, that within the next 2 weeks, this mural was put up in the main lobby of the high school, and we came up with this slogan together. We talked about it. How can we make a statement, and how can we memorialize the fact that, in his words, Sammy was back, in my words, Sammy never left. We just needed to show that. But we also needed to make sure that the generation of Paramus kids who knew the other mascot weren't going to be excluded either. So together we came up with this mural, built on tradition, cultivated through excellence. And this is still up in the main, in what we call the principal's atrium now. And we came up with this together. So what I always tell people is the controversy around Sammy, you can thank Kenny for that. Because this was his work. He came in and he settled it, because when I saw those